Chapter 3. Strangers in the Night. The rain drummed steadily against the car roof, a syncopated rhythm that mirrored Joshua's racing thoughts as they maneuvered through Caldwell's darkened streets. He felt the weight of frustration and urgency pressing down on him, and a flicker of inspiration ignited within him. "Clara," he said suddenly, breaking the silence that had settled in the vehicle. "What if we're looking in the wrong places? The club patrons might not know much, but the people who live and work around it, they know the undercurrents. They see what goes on after dark." Clara raised an eyebrow, considering his words. "You think the regulars and workers will talk? That they'll have something more useful than the bartender? Sometimes the truth is hidden in the margins, you know? The people on the streets see more than we realize. Let's split up for a bit. I'll hit the alleys and small businesses while you check some of the late-night spots. We can cover more ground." "I don't like the idea of being separated in this part of town," Clara cautioned, her tone laced with concern. "It's not exactly safe." "It'll be fine," he insisted, feeling that desperate rush of determination. "You said it yourself, those girls deserve better. If we really want to help them, we need to dig deeper. Let's just stay connected on the radio." After a moment's hesitation, she nodded reluctantly. "All right, but be careful. I don't want to be the one to have to come looking for you." As Joshua stepped out of the car, the cold rain slicked his hair against his forehead, falling in sheets around him. With each step away from the vehicle, he felt a growing resolve, buoyed by the unsettling energy of the city. He moved into the claustrophobic alleys, their edges cloaked in darkness, every footfall echoing off the walls like a heartbeat. He took a left down a narrow passage where a flickering light barely penetrated the dark of the night, morphing the graffiti-covered walls into distorted canvases. The rain-soaked ground glistened like polished glass, the sound of his shoes squelching beneath him, his only companion in the muted chaos of the night. Joshua approached a small diner tucked against the side of a crumbling brick building. The sign above the door was cracked but still flickered weakly, casting shapes that danced in the gloom. As he stepped inside, the warmth and scent of fried food enveloped him like a hug, not overly inviting but better than the dark streets outside. The diner was sparsely populated. A few tired patrons lingered over cups of coffee, their faces lined with the weariness of long nights. Joshua approached the counter, where a middle-aged woman with a name tag that read Margot was wiping down the surface. "Can I help you?" Margot asked, her voice flat and devoid of any enthusiasm. "I'm looking for information about some missing girls. You know, the ones on the posters around here. Do you remember anything that might help?" he inquired, lowering his voice. The last thing he wanted was to draw attention to their conversation. Margot studied him for a moment, her eyes flitting around the room before settling back on him. "You're that cop asking around and looking for trouble, aren't you?" She glanced over her shoulder, lowering her voice. "Look, kid, I ain't got time for cops. I don't want to end up in the same mess as those girls." A flicker of impatience surged through him, but he tempered it. "Please, if you know anything, it could help. Their lives are at stake." Taking a deep breath, she sighed. "All I know is there was this one, Mia, right? She hung around here a lot before disappearing. Always had a crew with her, but it wasn't just for the drinks. You see a pretty girl like that, and she's got something drawing everybody in, you know? Like a moth to a flame. Did she mention any friends? A guy?" Joshua pressed, leaning forward as he dissected her words. Margot hesitated for a moment. "There was a fella, a dark-haired guy, always in a leather jacket. Tied to some real shady folks, I heard. He drove a black car, one of those fancy ones that scream trouble." A riddle began to unfold in Joshua's mind. What about her friends? Did they ever say why they followed her? Followed her? Margot scoffed, a cynical smile forming. She had them wrapped around her finger. They'd do anything for a taste of her spotlight. She was running wild, chasing thrills. But she blurred the lines. Some nights, she and that dark-haired guy would disappear, and the rumors? Those went wild. But listen, you really want the truth? Find the dude posted at the corner of the block. He ain't much to look at, but he knows things. He's their lookout. Who? What do you mean? James, the one in the red beanie. He's always lurking around. But it's all curses and whispers with him. Not my business anyway, she added, wiping her hands again, signaling the end of the conversation. Joshua left the diner, the warmth fading behind him, and stepped back into the cold rain. He recalled Margot's words about the guy in the beanie. A riddle indeed. A test, perhaps. Telling him the key to the next clue wouldn't come easily. As he made his way into the night, the sound of his radio crackled to life. Joshua? You there? Clara's voice cut through the static. I'm still here, he replied, breaking into a jog toward the block she had instructed him to check. Just spoke to someone who might have insight. She mentioned a lookout, someone in a red beanie. I'm on my way there now. You find anything interesting? Clara pressed, her tone urgent. Some tenuous ties at best, but I'm following a lead. I'll let you know what happens. He scanned the corners of the street ahead, eyes searching the shadows for any flicker of red. The streets began to feel more like a labyrinth, each twist and turn pulling him closer to his goal. In the dim light, he spotted a figure hunched against a brick wall, the telltale red beanie atop his head, a point of color amid the monochrome scene. Hey! Joshua called out, approaching cautiously. Are you James? The man looked up, a glimmer of suspicion in his eyes. Depends who's asking. Just someone looking for answers. Margot sent me. At the mention of her name, the man's posture relaxed ever so slightly. What do you want? I'm investigating the missing girls. One called Mia in particular. Heard you know things. Information ain't free, the man retorted. But I'm not asking you to pay. Just answer a riddle in return. Joshua's heart raced at the challenge. Fine. What's the riddle? The man leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. I can be cracked, made, told, and played. What am I? Joshua furrowed his brow, considering the words. Cracked, made, told, and played. Take your time, the man drawled, watching him closely, as if gauging his intelligence. Get it right, and I'll help. Get it wrong, and you're wasting your breath. The rain continued to fall, forming slick puddles around their feet. Joshua could almost sense the answer hiding just out of reach. A secret. Nope, the man said, shaking his head. Think broader. A light bulb flickered in Joshua's mind. A joke. It must be a joke. The man nodded slowly, a ghost of a smile forming on his lips. Smart boy. You've got a good head for it. Now let's talk about Mia. With the distraction lifted, Joshua felt a rush of clarity. As the pieces began to click into place, he knew just how important this encounter could be. Let's do it, he urged, ready to dig deeper into the mystery. Knowing Clara would wonder how he'd pieced it all together,